All right, it's looking like our numbers are stabilizing a little bit, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to all of you who are joining us today. We are so glad you're here for the Financial Aid 101 webinar of our Summer Transition Series. My name is Dalton Dye, and I'm an Associate Director with New Student and Family Programs here at Duke University, and we're thrilled that you've taken some time out of your day to join us for this webinar, whether it be morning, evening, or afternoon from wherever you're coming from. If you've been a part of our previous Summer Transition Series, this summer, welcome back. And if this is the first one that you're joining, just some background, we host weekly webinars throughout the summer to get important information directly to your students from our experts across campus. All of our webinars are recorded, and you can go check out our YouTube page or our New Student Family Programs website to access past content, review what we've talked about before, and register for upcoming webinars. Today, we have some colleagues from the Karsh Office of Undergraduate Financial Support Team to answer questions, share some of the top 5 financial aid tips for a smooth transition to Duke. A couple of housekeeping features. The first is the chat is disabled. The only way that you can communicate with us is via the Q&A feature. So please use that to ask questions as we're going on. There will be time for open Q&A at the end. And so we'll take some questions and read them out loud for everybody as well. We also have a couple staff members who are operating in the background. So if you do have an individualized question that they can answer via text, they will do so. So that's how we can communicate back and forth that way. The other piece to know is that our webinar is being recorded. As I mentioned, we put all of them on YouTube within a couple of days after our webinar ends. And so we just want to, so heads up that it's being recorded. And it'll get posted afterwards. We do transcribe all of our videos so that way people can access them who need those. So it'll take a couple days, but it will be coming if you just give us a little bit of time. So yeah, feel free to use the chat as we keep going through. We'll get to them all at the end, and then we'll wrap up once we're done. So I think without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to let her introduce herself, and we'll get into the content. So Nicole, it's your show, all you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Nicole Knight, and I'm one of the assistant directors in the Karsh Office of Undergraduate Financial Support, aka FinAid. So welcome, welcome. Tonight, or this evening, I want to take some time just to go through what our office would like you to know and to understand and to explore as you begin your Duke journey in the coming months. So this is all relevant for anyone who may have applied for financial aid, who is receiving or has received a need-based offer, whether it's now or potentially in the future. All this information is relevant to you and your Duke Hub and all of the access that is quite literally at your fingertips. So with that said, if you are joining us via phone or if you are utilizing a desktop, go ahead and grab your phone, and students, if you are there, log into your Duke Hub, because it'll actually be very helpful as I move through this for you to actually see on your own devices what I'm talking about, what it looks like, and therefore reference later as things start to come up and as you start to receive more communications. So it'll be a great pairing if you're able to, with a parent or you yourself, have your phone and be logged into the Duke Hub. So I'll give you guys just a second to do that if you're able, and then we will get started. Okay, so as it was said, I'm going to go through basically financial aid's top 5 tips for successfully navigating and orienting to Duke University from a financial perspective. So firstly, we're just going to explore and talk about what is Duke Hub and some of the top features that you have access to that will answer the majority of the questions you're going to have related to our office and what we do and how we do it. And then just overall, how to approach tackling that bill that you guys are about to receive very shortly next week. What are some other access things related to parents? And then just getting to know us and how to contact us, how to reach us, and when to do so. Okay. So most of you, if you apply for need-based aid, whether it's ED or RD, you received a financial aid offer, as we like to call them. I was like, kind of, now what? What happens with that? What do you do? This is where you get started. So if you are able to log in and you're on your hub, the first thing we want you to see and take note of is your dashboard. Everything related to your Duke journey, whether it's academic, financial, and potentially some extracurricular, are all centralized on the Duke Hub. So it is your go-to first and foremost when you have questions. So that said, financials is a broad category. It can mean a lot of things and relate to a couple of different offices, not just the financial aid office. So firstly, it's not meant to be complicated. The app itself is designed to be very user-friendly to get you to where you need to be very quickly to assess information. So if we think of it from that standpoint, there are a few specific tabs that I do want to highlight for you all within the financials section. So firstly, as I said, next week, you guys will receive your first fall bill. Very exciting. Maybe not, but that bill is coming nevertheless. So what does that mean? Well, if you go to your hub, you're going to see many different versions of that same information, and you get to decide how you want to digest it, where you want to go, what makes sense to you. So for our purposes, we think there are a few tabs specifically that you should be familiar with or be comfortable using. So firstly, if you see when you receive your bill, you're going to see your balance, what you owe out of pocket. So there's a neat little section on your hub simply titled What I Owe. And it's a snapshot per semester of what you owe at that time on that day that you log in. Here's what you owe for the fall term. And then once we move through terms, it'll add to say, okay, here's what you owed for the fall. Here's what you owe for the spring. So in situations where maybe you have a little bit of a balance left over from one semester, it's going to show that, but we may be entering a new semester. So it's going to show you the balance specific to that term. So that tab can be very useful when trying to understand on a semester basis where your balance is or where it ended, which also relates to the billing history itself. So June 23rd, you'll receive your first Duke bill for the fall term. And it is specific to just that semester. Then beginning in August, you guys are going to start receiving a monthly bill. So by receiving, I literally mean you're going to get a PDF copy print sent to your Duke Hub, and this is where it lives. So you can always go to your billing history and see every version of a bill from the moment you hit Duke's door beginning next week. So bills are nice. PDF copies can be nice. They can be useful because some third parties may need them for verifying your enrollment or your account status at Duke. So they exist and they can be useful, but I put a huge asterisk there. So Duke is no different from any other financial institution that's collecting payments and applying charges. So a bill is sent once a month. But if I send, well, not I, but if the bursar's office sends you a bill on June 23rd, and for reasons, you go into your account and on June 27th, a change occurs by you or by a Duke entity, that paper copy no longer matters. What it said several days ago is now void because new activity has occurred. So using the bills, the print bills, is not going to be the most efficient way to view your account on any given day at any given time. It's a timed, stamped paper document that is honestly just a courtesy that we have to provide all families, but it's not meant to tell you at any given point where you actually stand with the university. So I caution relying on them, just like I would caution anyone with any banking institution, your credit card company, Verizon, Spectrum. They send you a monthly bill too, but you don't really look at that for the most part. We all get them, but when we want to know what's happening with our account, we log in. Duke is the same way. You want to know where your account stands at this very moment, you utilize what's called the Account Activity Classic. So that's going to show you every single charge, debit, credit, whatever it may be that you've ever had at Duke University. And it's going to break it up by semester. So it's going to have neat little buckets that show you per term every charge and credit you have had. And it's going to show you by semester the total credits versus debits, but it's also going to tally for where we are. So once you pass your first semester, we're getting into your second, your third, your fourth. It's going to give you a running total at the end of the day between all semesters you've been attending Duke, what you actually owe, or potentially what you are due as in a refund up to today's date. But of course, if you want to digest the information by semester, you can see on a semester basis where you started, where you ended, and then start fresh with the next term. So we like to stress that print bills can be nice and useful, but on any given day, you want to know what you owe or what Duke may owe you. You log in to your Duke Hub, you go to the financials accounts activity page, and you will always have the most up-to-date information. It's what I see, it's what our billing office called Bursar sees, and it's what they are using to tell you what you owe Duke. So I'll stop there. I've said it enough. I think you get the point. But there are a host of other very useful pages within the financials tab. So others related to your aid offer itself. So if you want to see the breakdown of your aid offer, there's View Financial Aid. If you want to see a summary of your family contribution opposed to what the total cost of Duke is, you can select the View Aid Summary. So again, just lots of different ways to see the same information, and depending on what you need or who may need it, you have access to that information at all times. So other things that are useful here that I'll mention as I go through are related to payment plans. This is where you go to see that information. Maybe you are utilizing student loans. This is where you would go to see that information and to formally accept that. So those are just a few things, but if I haven't stressed it enough already, if it hasn't sunken in, this is it. So I would say most questions that we get via phone or email, families actually already had the information, they just didn't know where it lived. So do take the time this summer as billing fills in, as you are getting the PDFs, as you are making decisions about loans potentially, or you're getting third-party scholarships. It's all funneling here, and this is where it will be represented for you to digest and to understand where we are on any given day. Okay. So as I mentioned, some of you might consider utilizing loans to help pay the bill. And if you do, that section of the financials tab is titled Accept Decline Loans. We assume that you want all grants that we've offered and that potentially you might utilize the work study. So those are accepted for you. You don't have to act. But if you want to accept federal student loans, you do have to formally do so through your Duke Hub. So again, if you don't want to use loans, there's nothing to do. But if you do, you will need to log into your hub to formally accept them. And that's going to cue our system to ask 2 additional steps of you. So the first year you ever take out a student loan, you do have to complete 2 additional pieces of paperwork online through the Federal Student Aid site. And it's basically the terms and conditions that you understand your interest rate, the repayment schedule, and what all of that will look like once you graduate. So it's a one-time paperwork submission that then carries forward for your 4 years. So for anyone accepting a loan this year, you will complete what they call a master promissory note and entrance counseling that will be linked on the Hub to-do list. And once we receive those items, you're good to go. Your loans will be ready to disperse in August toward your fall bill, and then again in late December, early January toward your spring bill. All right, so aid offers are generally typically 2, if not 3 items, and work study is that third category. So grant funds of any name, whether it's federal fund grant funds, Duke grant funds, state grant funds, all of those are all dispersed directly toward your billed expenses. Student loans also disperse to Duke and directly toward your billed expenses. But this third category, work study, does not. So again, it is accepted for you when you received your aid offer. We assume you might utilize it at some point, so we skip the step of you needing to accept it yourself. But you don't have to do anything if you don't plan or intend to work. It will always be offered, and it will always be accepted on your behalf, but you don't have to act if you do not want to. But if you do, this information is for you. So Duke has a glorified classified, it's called JobX. So it's a student employment site where every student who has work study can see their work study allotment, and so can all of the Duke employers. So it's a massive site where both employers and students come together. So students, you already have a net ID and password, and that is what you would need to log in to the Student X job site and look at the opportunities. As we move and roll closer to July, more and more of the positions geared toward the fall and spring will start to be posted, but you're welcome to go on there now and see what's available. But it's completely up to students to pursue those job opportunities on their own. We do not assist students in obtaining positions. But you would go on this site, you would see what's available. Usually the postings include the job title, the pay range, the number of hours they're looking for a student to work, and then any other pertinent information a student may need to know if they are going to seriously inquire. So students and employers navigate that process. Some have a formal interview process. Some are pretty casual, where you're interested, you contact them. If it works with your schedule, then you go ahead and agree to take that job. But all of the paperwork related to payment is then processed by your employer. And at that point, you are a part-time Duke employee. So instead of that money going toward your bill, you receive a paycheck. You are paid every other week, biweekly is what it's called, directly to your own personal checking account. So you are limited to no more than 19.9 hours a week, which most students do not meet that or hit that threshold at all. But depending on your schedule, typically anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a week, maybe 12, maybe 15. But those are usually the positions that potentially your upper class years you might access related to research or things like that. But again, it's money paid directly to students via their own checking account. So they will go through HR and be put on payroll, and all of the processing of their earnings is handled behind the scenes, and they just get a paycheck. What they do with that money is completely up to the family. We assume it's going to be used for personal expenses, books, supplies, travel. I always like to say it's going to Sam's and getting that ramen and getting the snacks. That's where that money is intended to be spent. Students can always opt to pay some of their bill themselves. They can get their paycheck on a Friday and turn around and make an e-payment toward their Bursa bill if they would like. But that is their buy-in. It is their way to help themselves throughout the course of the academic year. So anyone who applied for need-based aid did receive an offer of a loan and work study at minimum. So every student who applied for need-based aid does have that opportunity throughout their 4 years at Duke. So again, your net ID and password are your key to getting into the JobX student employment site. Feel free to hop on and explore those job opportunities. And as we roll into the summer, check back, see what's available, and contact employers if you are interested in any of their positions, and go from there. Okay, so I've addressed all of the need-based components that Duke has offered to you. Now I'm going to flip it a little bit and talk about the things that you may actually be bringing with you to Duke. The biggest one being outside scholarships, aka external aid. So if it rings a bell, or you are in the realm of qualifying, eligible, being selected for these opportunities, pay attention to this page. Okay, so students can receive outside scholarships up to a point. So I like to call it the MBA, meaning every student has a maximum benefit amount that they can receive and it be applied directly toward their bursar bill, and you students and families receive the full credit of that to reduce your out-of-pocket cost. So if you want to know your maximum benefit, pull up your aid offer letter. It's already written on there for you. If you received Duke grant of any amount and work study and potentially a student loan, this is applicable to you. So this bar that you see represents what we call the full cost of Duke. There's the amount that we are asking you to contribute, anywhere from 0 to X. There is a loan amount and a work study amount that, if you are looking at your aid letter, is located at the bottom. And then there's the Duke grant, which was located at the top. So when you report, when you tell us I am getting any amount of third-party outside scholarship, we have to do a substitution. We have to incorporate your outside funding into this existing bar. So to do that, we want you to have the most benefit. So we start with anything that's not a grant. Therefore, your loan and work study are your maximum benefit amount. Your family contribution does not change. So if we asked 10,000 of your family, that number is going to stay 10,000, even if you're bringing 15,000 to Duke with you. And this is why. So whatever the loan was we offered, we're going to cancel that first. Then we're going to cancel the work study. Anything that exceeds the loan and work study will then reduce your Duke grant. So the replacement system doesn't go up, it goes down. We eliminate loans and work study. Then we have to start reducing Duke grant dollar for dollar to compensate for what you were bringing with you. Now, if everything you're bringing with you, that total exceeds our entire aid offer, then yes, you are reducing your family contribution because you're completely wiping out what Duke gave you. But for most families, that is not the case. You're going to either wipe out your loan and work study or most of it, or you will lose Duke grants because of that outside funding taking its place. So again, if you want to know how much you can receive, what maximum amount you can receive to benefit you, look at your aid offer letter, add up the loan and work study. If you want to confirm, you're welcome to email our office and make sure that you understand how much you can receive before we start reducing your Duke grant. So that's very important. And especially during your first year, it's when you're bringing the most with you. So we want to make sure that you not only understand the policy, but that you are doing everything you can to receive the maximum benefit. So the summer is usually the time when we start getting, I'd say July of the summer, it's usually July where we get the bulk of those reports of outside funding. So as you're in those pipelines and being selected, there's actually a place on the hub. So within the financials tab, there is a place where you can report to us what third-party funding you will be receiving and bringing with you to Duke. So whether you do it all at once, you wait till you hear from every scholarship organization, completely up to you. But as soon as you know that you do have third-party money coming, please let us know. Reason being, we want to go ahead and update your aid offer. We want it to be reflective of what you're getting from a third party, which Bursar does consider, so that the amount you owe come August only reflects what Duke isn't providing and what a third party isn't or is providing. So we want everything accounted for both internally and externally so that you only are owing what is left. So I hope that is helpful. It's the most popular question for any first year student. So I'm sure I will circle back to it when I'm answering questions, if any of that was a little confusing. But if nothing else, just remember MBA. You have a maximum benefit amount. You need to know what that is so that you can maximize all third-party funding. All right. So let's tackle that bill. That June 23rd bill is going to say, here are what Duke has charged you for the fall 2025 for tuition and fees, housing and dining. It's going to subtract any and all grant funding, be it federal, state, local, that Duke was able to provide. If you decide to accept student loans, it's also going to subtract that student loan net disbursement. And what's left is what Duke is going to expect of you either in July or in August. So how do you want to tackle that? Here are some options and things that you could consider now or maybe later to help pay that net balance charged to you. So the first thing is maximizing student loans. As a first-year student, you have access to $5,500 federally. Filling out your FAFSA is all you needed to do to qualify for that. So some of you have a loan and your aid offer already, but it's 5,000 at most. If you do want that additional 500, you would just email your counselor and let them know, and they can offer that to you. But that would be the first place to help reduce your out-of-pocket cost. See how much loan is left for your first year, and you can decide whether or not to accept it. Outside of that, you do have private student and parent loans, as well as the parent federal plus loan that's tied to the FAFSA. So if any financing, be it student loan, parent loan, is of interest to you, you can reach out to our office. We can steer you to our website that goes through all of those different programs and our recommended lender list, which will be updated very soon in July to reflect the education loans that we genuinely do think you should pursue or look into if financing is going to be a part of how you pay for Duke. Then there's payment plans. So most of our families actually do utilize a combination. They will set up a payment plan. They will determine what amount out of pocket they are comfortable with, and then divide that up using one of our 3 payment plans. And then the rest they may finance, whether it's through student loans and or parent loans. So very quickly, I will kind of go over the gist of the payment plan system. So Duke participates with Nailnet to control and monitor the third-party payment system. So you do have to create an account with Nailnet, and it will guide you through the process of setting up a direct draft from a checking or savings account, no credit cards, on a monthly basis. So students or families usually utilize the 10-month plan because that's the fewest payments. So that's what's represented here. The 10-month plan is July 1 through November for the fall, and then spring is December through April, so that by the time you leave in May, your bill should be paid in full. If you participate in summer school, I did also just include those summer payment plan options, just so you know they are available during the summer enrollment period as well. But Duke does offer 2 other versions. If you prefer to start payment a little later, obviously your payments are a little larger, you do have that option. So if you prefer to start in August, you can utilize the 8 payment plan, or September, you can utilize the 6-month payment plan. But you do have to put 20% down if you do 6 payments because it is a couple months later. So all of that is reiterated on the Bursar monthly payment website. If you were interested, you can just go to duke.edu and type in monthly payment plan. It'll take you right to this page and link you to Nailnet for when it's time to set up those payments. I will say the enrollment period is open for those who will be utilizing the 10 months, but you haven't gotten a bill yet. So when that bill hits on Monday, the 23rd, at that moment, or shortly thereafter, Nailnet will update to reflect that same information, and you will want to go ahead and set up a payment plan prior to June 29th. That is the enrollment window for 10-month payments. And then it moves to the next month of July if you're going to do 8 months. That's your enrollment window. But again, all of that is on the website, the breakdown of the enrollment period, the payment plan that's applicable to, and then just what you need to do on the Nailnet site to begin that process and establish your account. So there is no interest charged. There is a one-time enrollment fee of $40 when you sign up. But other than that, you are strictly paying what you owe Duke over 6 to 10 payments. All right. That was a lot pretty fast. I'm sure you got every bit of it, right? No worries, no fear. We are here and we are in this together. So parents who are obviously charged with paying the bill, you have access to virtually everything I just said. So you do not have to be dependent on your student to navigate and figure out this process. So the one thing you can do before you hit the door in August is to have your student give you what we call proxy access. So guest access, proxy access, all the same thing. It's your student authorizing an email to be sent to you so that you can create your own version of their Duke Hub. Now they get to decide what you have access to see, but mainly you just want to see the bill, the financial aid. Maybe you want to see loan information. If you will be paying tuition and fees, the View 1098, which is a tax form parents might know. So mainly the financials is what you want to see, and students can keep other things to themselves. But students have to kick off that process through their hub and initiate giving a parent proxy access to create their own username password to log into their specific version of the hub that you give them access to. So I highly encourage everyone to establish that well in advance. Again, bills going out Monday. Anyone with proxy access also receives that monthly PDF. So there are incentives to go ahead and do that, but also still giving students their privacy and independence to not have to show you everything, but also for you not to have to rely on them to see the bill and to see the account activity. So do this. If nothing else, your takeaways today should be proxy access and maximum benefit for outside scholarships. If you take those two things away, this was a complete success. All right. So for those of you who received any base aid offer, it is those like myself in the financial aid office who put those together and did all of the number crunching to give the best offer we possibly could. So we are a team. There are a host of us who counsel and who will be with you every step of the way between now and graduation, who will reevaluate your finances and your documentation every single year. So now that you are in the Duke Network, we will pivot the schedule just a little bit so that in late fall, we will ask you to do it all over again, to do a profile, to do a FAFSA, to submit new tax documents. And we will rinse and repeat everything you just went through in several months. But we do ask that you renew your aid in a timely fashion, just so that we can do what we need to do and make sure that we're set for your sophomore year, which is crazy to even think about and say out loud because you haven't even hit the door yet. But the time will get here and the fall will roll. But remember, you do have to renew your aid every year so that we can reevaluate how much grant funding we will be able to offer sophomore year. But in general, as other things come up, we are your go-to, your contact to help resolve those situations, to let you know when new information can be utilized, how to submit it, and when to submit it. All of those ins and outs of using your aid once you're on campus, we are your people, your counselors to go to and correspond with. So we mainly do meet you all virtually, but we are in the office and we'll be in the office throughout the semesters and throughout the summer as well as the fall and spring. So you are welcome to utilize our online appointment scheduling if you would like to meet virtually, on the phone, or in person. All right. So lastly, I will just plug our personal finance and loan office. So they are under the umbrella of the financial aid office, but they are separate from us in that they process all of the loans should you accept them, and they work with the Department of Ed and all of those logistics. So if you have questions, detailed questions about loans that we can't answer, this will probably be the office we referred you to. They do have a staff of counselors as well who help families navigate the loan piece specifically once you've kind of passed our level of knowledge. But in addition to that, they offer just general personal finance classes and webinars and information to help students budget, to help them create a budget, navigate what's available on Duke's campus or in the greater Durham area. What do students have access to that they may not otherwise know? Personal finance does an amazing job of putting those resources together and letting you know where they live and how to get to them. All right, I did it. So let's just open this up. All right. We do have some Q&A, so I'm going to go in there and pick through. Oh, you guys are answering them very quickly. All right. So I said this would be my last pub, and the most obvious question is actually the subject. So I will take this time and space to also address a billing item that many of you may have seen already or are about to see next week that will throw you off, and that is health insurance. So every student at Duke is charged for the health insurance plan, and it's by design. So it's to encourage you to go to the student health waiver portal and complete that process. So regardless of where you're coming from, um, whether it's in-state, out of state, regardless of the type of plan, Medicaid, Medicare, it doesn't matter. If you have any form of health insurance through a third party or a parent, you need to supply that information. You need to input that information into the health insurance waiver. The third party that manages that will evaluate your policy to determine if that is sufficient for being here at Duke in Durham, North Carolina. If it is, great. They will inform the bursar's office, and that there will be a credit applied to your balance to negate that charge. So it's going to cancel it out. You're not going to owe it. On the other hand, if your home policy does not meet Duke's standards for Durham, that waiver is going to be denied, and that's fine. If it's denied and you are receiving grant aid from my office, from the financial aid office, you will email that denial confirmation to FinAid, FINAID, at duke.edu. And we are going to increase your aid offer to include a health insurance grant. So it's one of two ways. Either you don't need Duke's health insurance and they will credit that charge back to you, or you do, and those on grant aid will be given additional funding. So you should never be paying for health insurance out of pocket unless you are just choosing to, which it does happen. If families are approved for a waiver, but they still decide they want that extra coverage, that is completely up to a family to make that decision and to pay that. But ideally, you either don't need it or you have to be on our plan and we're going to pay for it. So emails went out at the end of last week addressing this very topic. So every student should have received one explaining what I just said, how to complete the waiver process, and if your waiver is denied, send it to us so that we can increase your grant funding by that same amount that you are being charged. Potentially, because there is also dental insurance. If you received a dental insurance email, you can proceed as it states to enroll in that plan and also receive aid to cover it, but only if you received that email. But that is probably the most convoluted process we have at Duke for incoming first years. But it does set you up for all four, because the assumption is if you needed health insurance your first year, you're going to need it for all four. So as long as you complete that process correctly your first year, you will not have a problem for the remaining three getting that charge covered up front. So I hope to, if you hadn't noticed, to bring your attention to the fact that that charge is on the bill. And for those of you who have seen it, good for you paying attention to your hub. But go to your Duke email, look for the health insurance process from financial aid. Again, I sent it last week, last Thursday, the 12th. So it is brand new information that has just hit for families. It was sent to the student's Duke email. So forward that to your parents if necessary, and go ahead and complete the steps as stated in the email and let us know if that waiver is denied. All right, let's see if there's any others.
Nicole, there were a couple of questions in
Yeah.
the chat around external scholarships. And so I
Yes.
think the two common ones we got are how do I report my external scholarships to Duke? And then the second is if my external scholarship needs a proof of enrollment or enrollment verification,
Mhm.
how do I get that?
Oh, those are good. So, reporting can be a number of ways. So on the Duke Hub, under the financial section, there is a report external aid option that you can select. And it basically pulls up like a message box where you can report the amount, the organization, and how you would like it split. So by default, we assume half fall, half spring. But if for any reason it needs to be different, you can indicate that. So you can do it directly through the hub, or you can simply email our office to say, here's what I'm receiving from X organization or foundation and the dollar amount. So we will go ahead and update your aid offer to reflect that funding. And in doing so, you are not held responsible for paying it. It's taken at your word so that that information is reflected for Bursar to see, and your payment is therefore lowered accordingly. Um, and then the second piece being, so if the organization needs verification information from Duke, it just depends on who they need it from. A lot of the time they want it from the registrar's office. So you could just contact the registrar, and they can fill out the form for you. If it needs a financial aid signature, you would just send that form to our office to fill out. And we would do that on your behalf and send it back to you directly or the organization. So that's a common ask of organizations to verify. So it just depends. Does it say registrar or financial aid? Send us the forms and we'll help you fill those out and get them back.
Great. Thank you. This has been a lot of really good information, by the way. So thank you for providing some insight. Uh,
Good.
I noticed a couple other questions around employer benefits paying for college. How does that count as a family contribution? How does that impact
Mhm. Got
some
it.
of the other benefits here that you all provide?
Yes. So a lot of families who may be utilizing like a 529 that they've established to help with college, all of that is funneled directly through the bursar's office. So each state is different, or if it's an employer specifically, they may have obviously their own policies and practices for how they want to make that payment. So just depending on what it is, it may be something where on the bursar's website, there's specific emails for employer-sponsored billing and payment versus like a state 529 college savings plan. So it does matter who is paying, I guess is the best way to say it, who is paying it. But yes, any payment that's not an outside scholarship or coming from Duke is you paying your family contribution. So nothing's going to happen if when that wire transfer comes through. Your aid is still intact. It is just your choice to use those resources to pay what Duke asked you to pay, which is kind of the point, especially if it's a college savings account that was already factored into what we asked you to pay, and now you're just using it to make that payment. But none of that would be used against you or negatively affect you now or in future aid years. It's just simply you utilizing the resources you told us you had.
That's great. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. All right. So I see one. Okay, last question in the Q&A. So, is there any need to be concerned about changes in financial aid as a result of the federal government's change in tax policy? Okay. So, I think I know what this is getting at. This is the reason we do aid renewal every year. So every year you recomplete your FAFSA, you recomplete a CSS profile, and we complete a new review based on your 1 year newer tax documents. So for this coming year, we asked for 2023. So for your sophomore year, we're going to ask for 2024 as the default year. So 1 year newer taxes and your present day assets. Those two facets are going to drive what your new cost is going to be. So that said, yes, as tax code changes and things shift, that gets picked up and that affects what we ask of a family. So if your taxes go down, well, then yes, technically your resources to pay for Duke may slightly increase, understanding that that's just on paper. But our goal is that if your income is remaining fairly similar year to year, we aren't having ebbs and flows, there aren't outliers, increasing or decreasing the numbers drastically year over year, then the cost we ask of you should stay very similar. But if that does happen, if there are drastic changes, if income goes up significantly, your cost to Duke is also going to go up in future years. The one thing that kind of helps you is the fact that we don't ask for the most recent taxes. So as things are happening in 2025, that won't affect you until junior year when we ask for that year's taxes. So it is a delayed effect, but there will be an effect if income increases or decreases, if the taxes increase or decrease. All of that does play into what we ask you to contribute to Duke. So the one resource we have available for families who may be in that situation is our net price calculator. So if you are a W-2 earner, is what we like to say, if you have a pretty straightforward tax situation, you can use that resource to play around with, well, we know what 2023 taxes provided. Plug in your 24. You can plug in your anticipated 25 in a few months and see what does it estimate you to be eligible for based on those different tax years. But if you want to kind of go in further on that, there is a section of our website that we can provide that gives all of the public information related to our need-based policies and how we evaluate your income and assets. So everything we can tell you about our formula does exist on a financial aid policy page for those who are interested in doing that deep dive. Okay, let's see. Okay, and we're doing pretty well on time, so I will go ahead and ask this additional question. If we have one-time change in income, for example, the sale of a house, what is the process and how soon should that be discussed with an advisor? So I will use that question to also generally talk about our appeals process. So if you've ever been to a Duke Financial Aid seminar, you've heard this before, and we will keep telling you. So we understand that things change, ebbs and flows in income, job loss, additional expenses that come out of nowhere. That's going to happen at some point over the course of 4 years. So we do our best to account for those situations either as they're happening or retroactively. So when there is a one-time income boost, that is an eligible special circumstance that we can take a look at to see, should we be counting that income or should we be ignoring it because of its special, the reason that it occurred, what made it special, and something that's not going to keep occurring and something that shouldn't be utilized to drive what a family pays Duke. So one-time income is a common category of special expense or special circumstance. Job loss is the other big one. And typically with those two, it is driven by new taxes. So we do have to wait to the spring semester when families are filing new taxes. And at that moment, we can go in and reevaluate to see, okay, remove the outlier year. What does this new tax year of more common income information and typical income information, what does that show? So we will reevaluate, but we do have to wait until the spring semester for anything driven by significant income changes, such as a job loss. So our appeals process details one-time income, job loss, exceptional expenses, so natural disasters, medical expenses, things like that. Um, Student loan repayment, so for our parents who may still be paying their own student loans. So all of those types of expenses and categories that we will definitely look at. Our appeals page details what those situations are, what you need to provide to document them so that we can consider them, and when you can submit that information. So it's a survey. So whenever you're ready, you can click on the survey, complete the information, upload your documents, and it will come straight to our email to begin a review process. So that is open to families all year long. And as soon as we're able to consider your situation, we will do so. And if it can affect the current aid year, we will make those adjustments. If it's not something we can do until next year, we will let you know what your process is going to look like to have that reviewed. So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I do I do hope that it helped with understanding there is a method and it's called our appeals process. So that is a section of our website under the forms and resources page. If you go to financialaid.duke.edu. Okay. Hmm. Okay. So I think this would be a great place to end. I see a bursar question in the Q&A. So being that we are the financial aid office, yes, our kind of partners in crime are the bursar's office, but we are very different. We are not sitting buddy buddy as you might think. Their office is actually downtown and you can't access it. So you can't go visit, you can't pop in. Our office is open to the public, but theirs is not. So remembering that as the aid office, we are providing funding, and as the bursar's office, they are responsible for the billing, so all charges, all maintenance of the bill, applying new charges, taking charges off. They are the funnel. So you pick a meal plan, you pick your housing. Bursar is the one controlling the actual charging of that to your account. So when it comes to payment questions, understanding your bill, the bursar's office is who you would need to contact. Now, yes, our office can tell you a lot of information about your bill because again, we do work in tandem, but for the most accurate information, the office actually in charge of that should be the one you contact. But in regards to outside scholarship checks, the question is, I received a check made out in my name. How should they deposit it? Should they deposit it and then write a check to Duke, or is there a way to endorse it over to Duke? Just what are the options? So yes, for those receiving outside scholarships that are made out to them, you can turn it over and endorse it to Duke University, and then put that check in the mail to our cashier's office. So if you go to, again, duke.edu, you can just type in bursar's office or cashier's office, and it will give you those instructions for how to get a check from you to Duke. And all the different methods, whether it's US mail, post like FedEx, UPS, all of those options. But that would be the easiest way is yes, you can endorse it and sign it over to Duke. You don't have to deposit it to yourself first and then make a payment. But Bursar would be the office to go to if you ever have questions about checks, how to get them to Duke, where they should go, all of that nitty gritty. Let them address that. But if you have any aid questions, we are your go-to, and we will be here all summer. We will see you guys very soon in August for move-in. But if anything else comes up between now and then, do let us know. Your counselor will be reaching out to you probably early August to let them know, or to let you know that they are your counselor for the next 4 years. But here's our email, phone. If you have any inquiries you'd like to go ahead and put in. But thank you all for being here this evening, being an attentive audience. I truly hope that this was helpful and triggered some thoughts and some ideas, and that you go explore the hub over the next few days and become familiar with it. But yes, so you all have a good night. I will turn it back over.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole, and your team for helping us out tonight. We really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to help speak with some of our students. For those of you who are still on the call, as mentioned, this was recorded. So if you missed any part of it, or if you want to share it with friends, family, fellow students, please take a couple days to, again, let us upload, process, add captions to our recording, and then it'll get added to our website as well as our YouTube page. So keep an eye out on that in the next couple of days. Our next summer transition series is going to be next Tuesday, the 24th, 4 p.m. Eastern, and that'll be Duke 101. So we have our Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, Dr. Candace Watts-Smith, who'll be here. She'll talk a little bit about the building blocks of the academic experience at Duke and what a liberal arts curriculum means here. So our link to register is on our website, same time, same place. We hope to see you there. And then just to close it out, again, any questions or concerns, whether it be financial aid or anything else, feel free to hit us up at student-orientation@duke.edu. We're happy to help answer or at least connect you with the folks who are the experts. So with that, we'll go ahead and call it. Again, thank you all for being here and enjoy the rest of your week.